Well, welcome everybody to Mud Flood was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon, the biblical Armageddon. Don't let anyone tell you anything else unless they are willing to debate in a fair, honest, nonviolent way. I'm going to take a second and in case RJ drops in, I'm going to put a link in there for him. Tried to paste it like it wasn't a chat box. This'll help. Well, all of that was the welcome was probably an echo, but anyway, had a great day in school, stood up for myself, stood up for the Lord, was loving the Lord, and now I'm so tired. I'm going to do a show, maybe get some food, do that go night night thing. I'm going to show some other videos. You saw the title, that's where we're heading. That's black and white. ¿Qué pasa, Don? That's my Espanol. But that's shared. Hey, a little bit of blast from the past. You know, this is December, right? I should probably show you what's going on.
And Satan being unbound from the abyss.
And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle.
This time being revealed through medieval folklore. And it isn't the character itself exactly that's so strange, but the fact that it's almost always depicted as being broken free or unchained from chains. But what's even stranger is that the true origin of this character is not able.
I'm going to interrupt this for 1 second and check my settings because I'm not hearing it in my, well, maybe it's just not loud enough. Is it loud enough for you guys?
To be traced past the late medieval era. That being said, if this is truly symbolizing or foreshadowing Satan being unbound from the abyss, it wasn't too long ago. Now let's get into the false history that they portray about this character, starting with this Smithsonian article. It's filled with many errors and doesn't cite its sources. Here it states, the roots date back to pre-Germanic paganism in the region. His name originates with the German Krampen, which means claw, and tradition has it that he's the son of the Norse god of the underworld, Hel. But this article gets some things blatantly wrong. Firstly, in Norse mythology, Hel is a goddess, not a god. Also, Krampus is not mentioned in any Old Norse sources, and Old Norse was never spoken in Austria or even southern Germany, and the article fails to cite any sources that claim
It is weird that there are so many legends about Krampus, St. Nicholas, Santa Claus, and so many warnings to the churches in the book of Revelation about the Nicolaitans. And they were also told that because the two prophets who came to life again, but when they were dead, they were given presents. That was a big thing to each other. So Krampus, maybe. This is 4 years old now.
Krampus comes from some type of ancient pagan mythology, and that's because there are none. Because Krampus is a not so ancient folklore, having broken chains symbolizing him being unbound from the abyss, just as Revelation 20 says. And that being said, how this character symbolizes probably the worst thing that can be symbolized. Look how they honor this thing around the world. Now, this is a warning because these next few clips are pretty wicked and disturbing.
What people dress up like this and do it. And people line up.
As you can see, it's quite strange that grown men take part in these types of acts. And the comments don't make it any better. One person personally states, "These guys will really hurt you. They were drunk and had no problem giving you scars." Another stated, "I seriously remember when one guy had this hard stick broom thing and hit me. It was so hard it gave me deep bruisings inside and some out. They would also bang on our doors and never stopped." And it seems these people have some type of obsession with dancing as demons. And if you remember the London tunnel opening ceremony, they had a similar thing. As seeing some creepy stuff, but back to the subject of Krampus. So it doesn't seem to come from some ancient pagan sources, but he does, however, resemble the depictions of Satan from those notorious medieval giant books. Now, the history of those books are quite a mystery, because during the wars in the 1600s, they're being moved, stolen, etc., which fuzzies up the origin. But as you can see here, this manuscript symbolizes the same character. Lastly, it's also often wondered why he's usually associated with Saint Nick. And according to the earliest medieval legends, Saint Nick was a known exorcist, which is likely why they became associated. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, consider subscribing, and share with a friend.
One of the first guys who used to, he'd shout me out and talk about it. He got this one too. A little bit of music here. You like the
Then
music
we're going to be seeing its
sometimes?
connection to what some call the Mud Flood, some say the Great Reset, some say Armageddon, or just the judgments in general. And we're going to be looking at it from a different perspective that surprisingly I haven't seen anyone connect in this way yet. That being said, we'll start off with the seven churches of Revelation. Revelation wrote of seven churches, commonly referred to as the seven churches of the Apocalypse or the seven churches of Asia. And often when reading Revelation, we forget that it was real letters written to real people in real churches. So when it says in the first verse of the whole book, it's writing about things which must shortly take place. Or better yet, in the third verse, where it says, the time is near. Imagine reading this during the generation it was actually written. If most of the prophecy was near and was to shortly take place during that time, does that mean God delayed? Well, no, that's not possible, because this is what the Lord says. None of my words will be delayed any longer. Whatever I say will be fulfilled, declares the sovereign Lord. That being said, let's get back to the seven churches of Asia in Revelation. They're said to have been located in modern day Turkey. In speculating about it, that rang a significant bell in my mind. For those who are interested in alternative history, it's generally assumed that something big has happened in the past. Some assume it was some type of cataclysmic event, others infer it was a cyclical reset. But it's all speculation. And the most prominent evidence of whatever happened happens to be found in Turkey and the surrounding areas. So, what we're going to do now is analyze some of the most strange geological and architectural anomalies, specifically in Turkey, where the seven churches were likely to have been located. And we'll also look at the surrounding areas, such as Syria, for the anomalies that occur there. And we'll ask ourselves throughout the analysis, is this possibly proof of a biblical judgment? Let's get right into it.
If I could focus on the things that you've done for me, if I could focus on the way that you love me, would I be alright? Yeah, would I be alright? Uh-huh. If I could focus on the times that you carried me, if I could focus on the signs from above, would I be alright? Yeah. Yes, I'd be alright. Uh-huh. You were looking out for me. I was lost. You were trying to show me the signs from above. I wasn't paying attention. I was in my emotions. I'll be alright. If I could focus on the things that you've done for me, if I could focus on the way that you love me, would I be alright? Would I be alright? If I could focus on the times that you carried me, if I could focus on the signs from above, would I be alright? Would I be? Yes, I'll be alright. You were looking out for me.
I think that's a computer.
You were trying to show me the signs from above. I wasn't paying attention. I was in my emotions. I'll be alright. Lord, I've been feeling that dreams are dream of seeing. That day is the day of hoping. It is your eyes I see it. Your signs and wonders. Now I know you're taking me home.
Every day is a revelation. All creation is a celebration. Every day is a living story, full of glory. No need to worry. Tears from heaven fall like rain on those sin in vain. If only they knew what they do, well then surely they would repent. As they turn away, I thought I heard an angel say, if only they knew how good it was to love and to be loved by you. Then they would see what it meant to me to love and to be loved by God. Every day is a sweet sensation. All the nations jump in jubilation. Every day is a miracle, paid in full. Isn't it so wonderful, so wonderful, so wonderful? But sorrow's song falls like stars on those who choose to lose.
So that was a good one. And I looked up Wolf Creek Pass, and they got some snow. I'm trying to do some shopping. Lord willing, maybe I've got a lift ticket in my future. Now, this guy kept popping up on my algorithm. It wouldn't go away for the last 3 days. I know Abraham Ortelius wrote a map. I never saw this part. Go.
Really helps nerdy channels like this one. The map is from 1570. The cartographer, Abraham Ortelius, considered with Mercator as the most influential mapmaker of the 16th century. His Theatrum Orbis Terrarum was the best-selling atlas of the century. The map itself is a marvel. It is titled Tartaria, or the Kingdom of the Great Khan. It includes the golden cities of California. In fact, it's the first map to use California to name that portion of the American West.
How about that?
It references Prester John and the lost tribes of Israel, and of course, the Tartaria that fascinates so many people today. It even has these mysterious volcanoes right in the middle of the Pacific. I know what you're thinking, but Captain Cook wouldn't discover Hawaii for another 200 years. The mystery of these islands and who really discovered Hawaii is something I spent a lot of time investigating, and it's something that a lot of historians got wrong. I put it all into this video here. It's one of my favorites.
I'll
simply
check it
because I
out.
learned so much in making it. There are a lot of legendary references on this map, but don't think for a moment that its creator was a crank. Ortelius was at the pinnacle of his profession. He didn't need to make anything up to fill up spaces or sell more maps. He had informants everywhere, and he had concrete references for every feature. If he put it on his map, we have to take it seriously.
Okay.
And there is so much to look at. But for this video, we're going to zoom in on one short paragraph.
What about the
Here,
Armageddon
in
thing?
what today we'd call northwestern Siberia. Tabor Regnum, the kingdom of Tabor.
Huh.
I'll translate what Ortelius says about it. Tabor, or Tiber, navel of the region of Tartary. They may have lost their sacred books, but they are still united under one king, who first came to France in 1540 to King Francis and afterwards to Charles V. He was unfaithful and suffered for it a fiery punishment at Mantua, for he had secretly solicited Christian princes to Judaism, about which he had addressed King Charles.
Let that sink in. In the middle of what we consider the 1,000-year reign, well, almost the middle based on their dates, the Sun King from France is trying to convert people to Judaism. And it's an I, but it was a J to them. You know that.
It seems amazing. A king of Tartary condemned to death by the Holy Roman Emperor. A Jewish king at that, risking war by proselytizing the emperor himself. This could not possibly be true. Could it? To find out, we need to start by looking for whatever references Ortelius might have been working from. He did not create his maps in a vacuum, and he was not the type of man to keep secrets. So we should expect to see references in other works, references to our mysterious Tabor. Sure enough, I found 3 references that echo Ortelius almost exactly.
This guy, right? I want you to hear what he says about it at the beginning. It's kind of, I'll remember to go back to 443. But he kind of poo-poos and laughs at this guy. Well, you'll see what he says about Armageddon. But it's real.
I've
did
spent
happen.
countless hours trying to penetrate its secrets, and I've only scratched its surface. And this is not the map of some crank or prankster. It was created over 400 years ago by Europe's greatest cartographer. It's one of the most cited maps in history, and I'm fortunate enough to have it in my personal collection. Today, we're going to explore just one of its most fascinating mysteries, a single Latin sentence, here on the eastern edge of Asia. Amazingly enough, These few words are a clue to a conspiracy that once threatened the world with, I kid you not, Armageddon. Fortunately, the world dodged that particular bullet.
Did it really? Did it?
From The Pilgrimage of Samuel Purchas. The king of Tabor, or Tiber, in these parts is said to have come into France, to Francis the French king, about the year 1540, and was after at Mantua by Charles the Emperor burned for secret solicitation of him and other Christian princes to Judaism. A certain Peter Heylin wrote, in this country in the wilderness or desert called Lop, from whence came King Tabor, whom Charles V burned at Mantua in 1540 for persuading the people to return to Judaism. Those were Englishmen. Here's an Italian, Giovanni Botero. Botero
Now,
was
did this happen in the middle of the Golden Age, or did this happen when all of Asia departed Paul in the two Gospels? Second Timothy chapter 1, verse 15.
key figure in this video, where we investigated the mysterious appearance of the antipodal continent. Some men likewise say that King Tabor came out of these parts to turn into Judaism Francis, King of France, Charles V, and other Christian princes, and for his pains in the year 1540, by the commandment of the said Charles, was burnt to ashes at Mantua.
Yikes.
These all agree with Ortelius quite exactly, but Ortelius wasn't cribbing from any of them. You see, Ortelius made his map 2 decades before any of these men started writing their books. As far as I can tell, Ortelius was the original source, and these other men were cribbing from him. I told you before the sort of influence Ortelius had.
You gotta do better than that.
We've come up dry so far, but maybe we can figure out who Ortelius was describing by other means. It seems that we're looking for a Judaizer condemned by Charles V and burnt at the stake in Mantua in about 1540. That's amazingly easy to find. If it's Charles V, the prosecution must have been through the Inquisition, and only one unconverted Jew was ever condemned by the Inquisition. This might seem surprising to you if you don't know much about the Inquisition. A lot of Jews were condemned for Judaizing in Europe over the centuries, but the Inquisition was meant to be a restraining force. It brought professional judges and lawyers to a task previously handled by ill-educated feudal lords and local clerks.
Huh.
Most of what we see today
Is I don't know if this guy's trying to prop up there's no propping up the Inquisition around here, my friend.
Now the first sparks of Protestantism were being fanned into flames by a German priest, Martin Luther.
So they
Even
say.
the discovery of the New World was seen as a harbinger of the apocalypse. Rubeni arrived in Venice penniless. He claimed to be the brother of the king of a Jewish kingdom, Habor, east of the Muslim heartland, coming to Europe to form an alliance against the ever-expanding Ottoman Empire. He soon won over many of the Jewish elites of the city with his piety and fasting, and once his purse was restored by the Venetians, he moved on to Rome. There he found a city on edge, subject to bouts of collective panic and apocalyptic speculation, and Rubeni thrived in this ill-starred city.
I wonder if he was a white Jew, if he's the first white Jewish person. You're getting my interest again, my man.
Oddly striking figure, dwarfish it seems, dressed like an Arab, and dark-skinned. The descriptions vary, from black as a Nubian to more like an Arab or Indian.
Oh.
He found in Rome a remarkable patron, not a Jew, but an eccentric cardinal of the church, Egidio de Viterbo. Egidio was a poet, a philosopher, and an archaeologist, and most importantly for Rubeni, Egidio knew Hebrew and was a student of the Kabbalah.
Well, how that?
At all.
So these spiritualists met up. I'm guessing there was some lighthearted gay apparel.
But he was fascinated by Jewish mysticism. It was through Egidio that Rubeni found a path to the Pope, Clement VII. Here we get a glimpse of Rubeni's remarkable ambitions. To the Pope, Rubeni offered to try to broker a peace between France and its rival, the Holy Roman.
Now, in my world, these Santa Claus dressing, if they, they had to pretend to be Christians in the Golden Age. There was a lot of tares mixed in with the wheat. They had to pretend to be Christian. They were ruled with the rod of iron. They would have tried to pull a bunch of under the table things, pretending.
Roman Empire. In return, Rubeni asked for arms with which to attack Jeddah, the port of Mecca. Clement did not immediately respond. In fact, he put Rubeni off for an entire year before finally telling Rubeni that he would be better off asking the King of Portugal. In Portugal at this time, officially, there were no Jews. A few years earlier, a royal decree went out. All Jews were to convert to Christianity or leave the country. But the conversos, as the new converts were called, were given something of a dodge. The royal decree also stated that the conversos were not to be investigated for 20 years after their conversion. In effect, they simply had to keep their Jewish practices private for the time being. Still,
So this is one way they get that whole thing of how they got the Muslims, to be the only non-Trinitarians besides the Jews. This is all made up history forced on us. Now, what is on the maps? I'm not sure. I kind of want him to get back more into that. So let's skip ahead.
or 30 years later, Ortelius made this map. The story was fresh enough, and Rubeni had been prominent enough that not only did Ortelius know the story, but he expected his audience knew the story as well. It was enough to mention the burning at Mantua by Charles V. Who wouldn't know the story of the flamboyant Jew who tried to convert an emperor? We still have some mysteries, though. Why is it where it is? The umbilicaria of Tartary. And what did Ortelius mean when he says, ubi licit olim libros sacros perdidescent? They lost the sacred books. It all ties into the story of the lost tribes of Israel. When Assyria conquered much of the Holy Land in the 8th century BC, all but 2 of Israel's 12 tribes were assimilated.
First off, this is not where Israel is. The country they call Israel today was not here. This is not Jerusalem. They have no idea that these are the tribes or that's the Salt Sea. So we might be moving on. Is he going to prop up the whole tribe of Dam and is Amsterdam and the Queen of England and the Stone of Scone, and next thing you know, we'll have a speaking in tongues.
AD. Even non-Jews have sometimes been thought to be descendants, even the American Indians. There's a lot more to the story, and I'll be going back to this map again in another video. But the Old Testament plainly states that the tribes were all relocated within Assyrian territory.
Yeah. You know what I did this morning? Made a video. I kind of want to share a little bit more of it because for me, I liked it. I thought it was good. I want you to see part of it. Because welcome everybody to Mud Flood was after the welcome and everything else. I kind of got into. So that's their story. They're sticking to it. This is the video that RJ sent his crew.
Half-story building. If we believe the official version, our ancestors voluntarily lived in a planetary-scale pigsty, where for centuries they did not remove trash and waste, but simply compacted it, building new roads on top of the old ones. But this theory crumbles at the slightest contact with logic and facts. We need only look at the hydraulic.
But in their world, these are the pictures, we study of. Look at Tartaria. It was great. What if the mud flood was Armageddon? This is what they sold the world before we showed the pictures, right? Here it is. They knew how to make water flow from miles away.
Creates colossal pressure, capable of launching multi-ton columns of water more than 20 meters high. This only sounds
That's
beautiful
about 60
and
feet.
simple in theory. In practice, implementing such a project requires more than just digging ditches with surf labor. It demands a perfect mathematical calculation of
So this is more than looking at maps. The cast iron. Their pipes are still working, man.
historical narrative. The quality of the pipes themselves. During restorations of the old systems, engineers find fragments of pipes cast from an iron of such quality that it surpasses many modern equivalents. These are pipelines with perfectly smooth interiors.
I'm going to jump ahead.
Capable of withstanding
The most beautiful. So like Versailles, like Peterhof, like the ones they're showing you, they're the ones that didn't have bathrooms. But they couldn't go pee, or they didn't have to, one or the other. So I looked up, this is a Baroque thing. So I looked up on the Wikipedia list of the Baroque residences because, okay, we got Versailles in Russia or in France, Peterhof in St. Petersburg in Russia. What about the other Baroque residences? I'm like, okay, this one. I started going through different things like, okay, the Palace of Versailles. I put, did this originally have toilets? No toilets there. Well, I copied another one from that page of the Baroque things. Did they originally have toilets? Nope, no toilets. So I think it's pretty safe to assume the most beautiful and wonderful, amazing architecture of those, what they say is after Satan was loosed, they decided to kick it up a notch because of the Renaissance. They didn't need toilets and they were happy to stink, RJ. I think that theory stinks. You could do it again. Look at that. 625 palaces. Let's just do this one. Slosh noddle egg, because it says egg in it. I picked it because it said egg in it. It's going to say no. It didn't have original toilets. Does not have historical records indicating the presence of toilets originally. Built in 1697. But if you want to go there, I'm sure they have a potty for you. I tested RJ's patience today. I sprung it on him, man.
Well,
there's a couple
but
of
not-
times in the scripture where even before, the rising of Messiah, we are capable of, God can do anything. He can put us somewhere. He
Well,
moves
if you look
people.
at what's recorded in the end of Luke, you not only somehow is either to pass through a locked door or a wall or what have you, and be in the midst of them and eat a fish. Kind of like at the end of John, where
Yeah.
they've been toiling all night, and he has a fire going, and I don't know if it specifies that he shared the meal with them, but he certainly did in Luke. He
Check out the,
requested if they-
I know you're checking out his cool flat earth maps as they're telling time. These are both clocks that have the constellations on them, but I'm going to back it up because you're not listening to RJ. You're looking at his clock. We're not going to back it up that much.
No, if it specifies that he shared the meal with them, but he certainly did in Luke. He requested if they had any food. Again, with that type of a body, the ability to ingest is one thing, but is there a need for it to run through the body? I don't know.
Right.
But
what we do
it's
know,
going to be like the body of angels. Yeah, are there toilets in heaven? Nothing's been revealed about that.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It intuitively, I'm saying no, but
But
we are
Jesus,
here because of the
the
RJ.
Jesus, when they came to Jesus and asked him about, whose wife would that be, he explicitly said, once you, uh,
No sex in heaven. They're not made that way.
it includes that, but yeah, bodies, it's totally different. So if those that were raptured, to do what was required for the kingdom during the millennial reign, I'm not, whatever that entailed, I'm probably something,
Yeah.
but
While they were under the altar crying out, how long? Because they weren't doing it like, Dad, I got to go to the bathroom. How much longer?
well, that's just it. The saints that had perished through being
That was a good one.
martyred would be the first to rise for the rapture, and then those that were alive that qualified to be transitioned into the glorious body that Paul, describes, and to be, don't be deceived because it hasn't happened yet. And he in Second Thessalonians was telling them, why it hadn't happened yet, and there were certain things that still needed to be completed before the glorious return. That what Jesus said to the priests at his trial, they would see him return. And Revelation says the same thing. Those that had pierced him, and it was going to happen soon, not just relatively soon. It was going to happen. His last hour, so to speak. I quote.
Right.
I mean,
Hold on to the
paraphrase.
plow. Many are falling away. Don't let it be you. We know that
The Lord.
God uses everyday people like the few people listening to us. We saw what they were putting out in 2014, 2015. It's a flat earth. The Russians were exposing Tartaria, Sylvia Nova, New Earth Channel. Look at all of this, prop it up. Somehow you, Doug, and others, we started looking at the stones. They were the body parts reserved in judgment. The Flat Earth Nation Golden Age past theology came out. You came out, we drilled some stones. RJ, for lack of a better word, the Lord used two very normal people to change the world. And now we're left here at the bottom trying to go, hey, here's this. Remember, this ties into Jesus. And we can't give up on that because everybody else is taking it to the Madame Blavatsky Atlantis as if this was expected. Let's go back to a little bit of that video. Is there anything you want to say? I want to just, this is the video you sent me this morning that kicked this off.
Well, yeah, with water and its numerous characteristics, what it's capable of doing, and that other video from yesterday, similar, as far as the water thing, but a totally different video on the train stations, and same thing, the fountains that were, taken away, again, inheriting, something that you don't even understand.
That's what
It
we
is
did.
bound to go through some significant changes from what it had initially, been or operated in a very sophisticated manner.
I like that they're founded, is being exposed now that we have found it. People know, it's obvious to those who know, and now they're going to have to remain faithful during some very trying times. this is what we all know. This is what brings us to the show. Is it going to be biblical for the individual?
If they disappeared, then where did we come from? The answer to this question can be found in a language that cannot be forged. The language of mathematics, statistics, and documentary evidence. If we look at any graph of world population growth, we see a strange and inexplicable anomaly. For thousands of years, the curve of human population is a nearly flat, barely fluctuating line. Then, suddenly, around the mid-19th century, there is a vertical, almost unnatural spike. Official science explains this demographic
Maybe official science needs to look if they take people's gold from them and start a new banking system, if all of a sudden populations explode. That's sarcastic.
Fire became the most potent eraser in the hands of history's falsifiers. With frightening regularity, a wave of so-called great fires swept across the world in the 19th century. The fire...
So they would have us believe. And RJ, the fires of Armageddon would leave the same results.
Well, yeah, there was some technologies in addition to systems that they don't understand, that maybe a few or that had access and was able to do some catastrophic changes in order to wipe out much of the evidence. I mean, we still have plenty of evidence. It's just having the ability to recognize the evidence for what it actually truly is.
Right, because they're not going to advertise tours for, hey, get your bucket list, see all 625 magnificent buildings built in the Baroque style that don't have toilets, that were built without toilets, because the French royals didn't care if their butt had poop on it, and they were walking with poop on them. Come on. Really? The Sears and
Not
Roebuck
everyone sees
catalog
the same thing.
sold kit houses. You could buy a whole house from Montgomery Ward, Sears catalog, and other people. And we know that King Hiram bought kit houses and temples from, or he sold them to David so Solomon could put them up. I'm thinking after, there is Armageddon, and we did build some things. Why? My idea is that after Armageddon, people looking around, if they kind of know where to look, like we think the John Birch, the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons were told where to look, they could find a fresh kit house or a fresh kit temple or one of these kit Union stations in New York or something, one of the big things, and say, look what we did. But they didn't really do it. Like, they only found Versailles, and they rewrote the history and had to, put in the Princess. See the way sometimes at night on the clock the constellations light up. This thing is even cooler in person. Our court left a trail of poo everywhere she walked, and she just didn't care. That's French,
allegedly. Yeah,
that's French custom, man. Did I get into the two? And here I showed that what about the Hittites? I think I type it in. What about the Hittites? Do they have poop?
Ventilation and stuff, and how things got or ended up being modified wasn't advantageous at all. They just,
And we got
not
these
knowing
things.
how the system worked.
Am I sharing the screen, RJ?
Yeah.
Yep. So after that, so far today, I found myself, went to some classes, did some writing, critiquing stuff, looked up the word Adam again. So this was left over, but look at some of the anomalies here. How come that's the same word, but they have them separated? I've asked, all you other scholars out there, you're listening to me, you study the Bible way more than most people. How come they're separated? Man born of woman. Is this an Aramaic? No, no. I don't get it. But I know that we Adam and Ha Adam, you should, maybe care a damn about. Because we Adam is you. There was no one like us, small enough to drag a plow around. There was no Ha Adam, male of this type, to cultivate the ground. Cultivate the ground. Love the earth that we're created from, because the Lord lifts the veil and we find out, oh, wow, man, we are that dust in the earth. It was in the earth before it was in any field in the earth. It's 776, but it's not. It's only part of it, 45 out of over 2,000. And yet, in that right on the earth, Nephilim were on the earth. It was the earth, though. Populate the earth abundantly. You know that this is where Noah is getting his marching orders. What else was told in this chapter? You don't only have to be a vegetarian anymore. Before, God gave them the herbs and said, here, eat these herbs. Now, afterwards, he said, you don't have to eat the herbs. But to make that clear, I think I'll give that to you. The fish of the sea delivered in your hand, birds of the air, creatures that crawl on the ground, every living creature delivered to you, Noah. Everything that lives and moves will be food for you. Like I gave you the green plants, now I give you all these things, but not the blood. And that ties in so well with the theology of mud flood theology, at the millennialism, where Acts 15 and Acts 21 tells you, hey, Gentiles, yeah, you did have to keep some Jewish commandments. One, don't eat food that's been offered to idols. Two, don't eat food that's been strangled. Three, don't eat meat with the lifeblood. Don't eat blood. And four, flee fornication. Nothing did they say of those things they called requirements in chapters 15 and chapter 21 of the book of Acts. And it's right there in Genesis 9. Well, your love doesn't pay the bills, and it doesn't give me a thrill to even think about it. You can have all your money. What you need is love. The earth, the eretz. Before there was any plant in the field, nobody could plow the ground. You couldn't cultivate it. La boot. You couldn't love the earth. You couldn't serve it. Due to its service, not poison it with your frickin' glyphosate like the Gershonites, maybe. I don't know. I hope I didn't slander the Gershonites. If I did, please forgive me when I meet you in heaven. I'm the Paco. I'm supposed to get away with some things like that. So this ground is not the eretz. It's not the dust you're made from. I'm pretty sure it's for creeping on. Well, there's nobody to cultivate it. But Oh, see, here's a separation I was hoping to show you of the dust from this whole thing up here. This whole thing. Hey, it was there on the ground thing, but it's not this. This is a big deal to me. I want it to be a big deal to you. The mist went up from the ground. Hadama? That's tilling the ground. Eretz? Aper? The dust. Man from the ground. You are dust. Sand, like sand on the earth. This is what you are. You're made from dust. You're not made in the image of God. They were. They're the titans. They're reserved in judgment. They're the big rocks that have the hearts that are, hey, that would be 20-foot tall human. Yeah. And there's a few of them that would be, 3,000 feet tall? It's insane, everything about it. But all you are is dust from a vibration spinning in an analemma vortex, a Mobius strip of swastika, swastika. In with the good, out with the bad. Dust, magnetically charged like you are. A human battery trapped in flesh because you're dust. You could build up gold, silver, and precious stones by doing good works in the name of Christ after you've been saved by grace. Because you have to. The whole metaphor and analogy of the Bible that has very precious few metaphors and analogy is that you are a living stone. You're going to be judged. You've been planted in soil, a seed, given talents, 5, 2, or 1. Does that ring any bells? Oh, you had potential to get 5. If you used them correctly, boom, here's your 10, and you'll be rewarded somehow, possibly with others. But if you don't live up to what God has good works prepared for you from before the foundation of the earth. James chapter 4. To him that knoweth to do good and do it not, it is counted as sin. We live with a circumcised heart with God's word written upon it. We're way past the golden rule here. Naturally, we're going to treat people like we want to be treated. We're not going to be long counted among those who would break a dog's neck. Flat Earth Nation, the golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon. Yeah, they added 1,000 years. You got an orphan trained brain. Our parents or grandparents were in on it. It's why they didn't get a lobotomy. They weren't institutionalized, lobotomized. They trained us up in the way they wanted us to go. And if God hadn't opened our eyes and opened our ears, we would be like them, which is why we don't kill them. We love them. They count us as enemies. Best thing to do is just stay away from them because they're going to try to kill us and poison us. My friends are never going to tell you anything else. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci, ciao, sayonara, auf Wiedersehen, nakame. Adios, amigos. From the border of Colorado and New Mexico, Paco saying